All right, welcome. I'm going to be talking about the Buck Ruxton murders today. Um, Here we go. So, where and when did the crime occur? Crime occurred in the Ruxton household in Dalton Square, Lancaster, UK. This occurred in 1935. What we're going to find is that not all of the events, the important events of this crime, are going to happen in England, in Lancaster. So that's going to be a little bit difficult for the different police services to sort of investigate and put the pieces together, which we're about to find out. So what happened? Dr. Buck Ruxton, he is one of the higher status members of society. He's a practicing doctor. He has a clinic. He is well respected in the community. Um, he would often waive the fees, the medical fees, for some of the people who couldn't afford some of the medical fees of his clinic. So he was very well respected. No one really saw this coming. What was about to happen. He and his wife are known to have a sort of passionate, sometimes edging towards, um, flagrant relationship. And one night, Doctor Ruxton is consumed with jealousy and paranoia um, over what he perceives to be his wife cheating on him. In reality, she was returning from a visit to her sisters in Blackwood, but that is not what Dr. Ruxton can perceive and what he thinks. So he strangles, beats, stabs her, um, and then what people think happened is Mary Rogerson, their live-in housekeeper, in she was in the household, and most likely was either a witness to the original murder, or Dr. Ruxton simply does not want any witnesses. She is killed in a similar fashion. This is going to be evidence that it took place at pretty much the same time. Um, Dr. Ruxton will proceed to surgically dissect the bodies in his bathtub over a period of 2 to 3 days, while constructing elaborate alibis and excuses for the whereabouts of the women. Um, and the body parts will later be discovered um, in a river called the Gardenholm Lynn, which is 2 miles north of the town of Moffat. Moffat is in the Dumfriesshire area, which is Scotland. That's going to make it difficult for these police services to sort of interact and try and piece together what everything means. So who are the key players? We have the Ruxton family, Dr. Buck Ruxton. Like I said, very esteemed and very high status. And that's going to be a reason that he is not a suspect for quite a long period of time. Bella Ruxton, she's the wife. She has a lot of people describe her as having like a magnetic personality, very pleasant, very, just a good person to be around. And then Mary Rogerson, young girl, 20 years old, um, very very loyal and diligent, very close to Bella Ruxton, which is going to be further indication, that these are the two people that we end up finding in the river. So here are just some pictures. You have Dr. Buck Ruxton on the left, Mary Rogerson on the right, and most famously, this sort of superimposition of Bella Ruxton's face on the skull that was discovered. And this is going to be one of the more damning pieces of evidence that really took the trial by storm. So, and now let's go over to the law enforcement side of things. We have Officer Robert Sloan, one of the first officers on the scene. Um, he responds to the call that human remains were found in the Gardenholm Lynn. What's most interesting about this is, despite the fact that he has no formalized forensic training or crime scene protocol, his documentation is immensely detailed and thorough. His sketches are really something, and um, he prevents a lot of the contamination and degradation that would normally have taken this crime scene, just So it was really interesting to see that despite him not having any training, he does it nearly perfectly. Um, that being said, some of the things that happen later when he's no longer the uh, the person in charge are kind of interesting and wouldn't happen quite the same way today. But we'll take a look at that a little later. So we have Professor John Clayster Jr., one of the prominent forensic scientists at the time. He's the one leading the autopsies. Um, he's going to discover that we definitely have two bodies. We're going to get a lot of features from that that are going to sort of point us in the right direction. However, one of the things that slows this investigation down is that initially the gender assigned to the skeletons are one male and one female, even though we know that it was actually two females. This is going to slow um, identification, and Dr. Buck Ruxton is actually going to. You're going to see some of the actions that he takes kind of show that he's kind of taking sort of pride in the fact that they got it wrong, and he's going to trip himself up. Um, so then we have Dr. Miller, who assists on the autopsies as well. He and Dr. or Professor Glaser are going to have sort of differing opinions, and eventually they're both going to come to the consensus that it was two women. And then you have Dr. Alexander Mearns. He's going to be one of the original. He was an entomologist, but he is going to be one of the first to apply that to the law, using the life cycle of the blowfly to determine how long the bodies were sort of exposed, and that's going to be a key sort of factor in sort of mapping out Dr. Ruxton's journey across the countryside to dispose of the bodies. So here we have the remains. Bella Ruxton on the right, Mary Rogerson on the left. And yeah, you're going to see some parts of skeletons were just never recovered. So it's really quite something. So overall outcomes, you have the newspaper wrappings, which were found, and they were from like a very specific local newspaper, which gets the investigators looking towards the Lancaster area. Clothing is identified as being belonging to Mary Rogerson. Forensic anthropology, most famously, the superimposition of the face on the skull, and the entomology, all sort of the damning pieces of evidence that lead back to Dr. Ruxton. He was notably going to the police station, sort of kind of often, and just kind of demanding that they sort of investigate his wife's disappearance. Then he comes in saying that you gotta do this a little less publicly because I'm losing customers, losing patients. It really all these things of him, just every time he comes into the police station, it's a little bit sort of off center, described as like passionate outbursts, and these are really going to not favor his defense that he's completely innocent later on. He's arrested on the 12th of October, charged with the murder of Mary Rogerson. The next morning, actually, November 5th, he's charged with the murder of his wife. The sort of the trial of the century sort of starts, and it starts on March 2nd, 1936. He pleads not guilty. He maintains his innocence for until his final moments, and he was sentenced to death by hanging. He dies May 12th, 1936. And one of the weirdly interesting pieces of this is that a newspaper, a local Sunday paper, published a supposed letter that they had received from Dr. Ruxton, and they were instructed, you can only publish this upon my death. If he was acquitted, they're supposed to return the letter. It's a full confession, but a lot of shady things happen with this letter, and it's clear now that it probably was not Dr. Ruxton who did it. It was probably a fraudulent letter. especially because a lot of other letters that he sent on his deathbed sort of maintain his innocence. And he, to the final minutes, even though the evidence is very much, it's obvious that he did commit these crimes. He had they tore apart the pipes to his house, found plenty of blood in there from the bathtub where the bodies were dissected, and just all these things, all the misleading alibis and sort of neighbors noticing strange things. It's not looking good for him. But that was it. For me personally, this case kind of has a pretty important meaning to me. On my study abroad to the UK, I got to go to the police museum in Dumfries, and I was given this book about this case from their records. It was very kind of them, signed and everything. So it was really just an incredible experience to kind of see not only like one of the first modern uses of forensic entomology, but also just I the way that this plays out is just it reads a lot like just a wild mystery drama, and it's crazy to think that things like this just happen. So yeah, as far as my diorama goes, I took pictures of the crime scene where the bodies were found. That you can see. You can see sort of the rocks sort of declining. That's going to be a big part of my. I try to capture that along with the greenery, as well as the bridge, which I didn't have the materials to make the actual bridge, but I think I did a pretty good job representing it in with what I had. So most notably, the bodies were already sort of getting that putrefied, that they were covered in maggots, and I tried to capture that to the best of my ability with Rice Krispie treats. So I hope you enjoy it, and that's all I have. Here are my sources. I've submitted this PowerPoint on Blackboard, so hopefully this video gets submitted soon, and should be good. All right, take care.